Okay, we are live. I'll just let a few people jump on here with us. Did it come through? Perfect. Okay, we'll just let a few people jump on here live with us. If you're new here, then welcome. Thanks for being here. My name's Lindsay. This is my husband, Jess. And we are Hayes Cofell Performance Horses. We're in London, Ontario, and we teach lessons. And there we go. Okay, so we teach lessons and train horses, and we have an online coaching program where we have training videos and riding plans and audio lessons and all kinds of things that we can tell you more about if you like. We're here every Tuesday night at 7:30, and we are answering questions that were sent in by you guys. Tonight we are talking about the equestrian portion of the Pentathlon event at the recent Olympics, and some of the controversy that has been surrounding that, some articles that have been public, and some videos and things that have been going around. So we're going to talk about that, and we want to hear what you guys have to say about that. Before we get into that, we just wanted to mention briefly about our Facebook Live from last week, which was all about pre-purchase exams and whether or not they're necessary. We talked about that for quite a while, and we had some really good messages from you guys. You seemed like you really liked that one. We had a few messages come in from vet techs or vets saying how much they appreciated that one. And I wanted to read this one to you because this one came from Dr. Tara Richards, who said, "Hey, I wanted to say that your talk on pre-purchase exams this week was spot on. And as a vet, I very much appreciated your perspective and wish that was how everyone viewed PPE. They are a tool to provide more information to make your decision on and for the future." There was one question about disclosure of information that was partially answered. So I don't know if you guys remember, but in the live, somebody asked if a vet had worked on a horse previously, if they were obligated to disclose what they had worked on. So that's what Dr. Richards is answering here. She said, if a vet has seen a horse either for a PPE or regular care, the Privacy Act in Ontario dictates that we cannot even share that fact without the owner's permission. So if one is going strictly by the rules and regulations, you wouldn't share you had examined the horse or treated it for XYZ unless the owner gives permission. We can decline to see if it's for conflicts of interest, like your vet tells the buyer to seek a second opinion. It can get rather complex. So that was great. Thank you for letting us know about that, Dr. Richards. And Dr. Richards is a Momentum member. She is a member of our online program, and what members are getting this week as part of our additional resources section, which is a section where we have curated a bunch of education and links that we did not provide, that we didn't create ourselves. Our membership has a whole section for additional resources like that. And one of the things that our members are getting this week is a podcast that Dr. Richards did about equine ophthalmology. So we're looking forward to sharing that with you guys on Thursday. That was last week's Facebook Live. So getting into this week's topic, I'm just going to check in here and make sure you guys can hear us and see us. Okay, Glenda. Hi, Glenda from Kenora. I think the riders need to have at least a 1-hour tryout, lower fences, and must pass a test strictly on riding before qualifying for the Olympics. Okay, so we're gonna get into a bunch of these things. Hi Laura. I think what we should do briefly, and if you're watching and you have an opinion on what happened, then you can definitely start to type that in. The questions are not going to be rhetorical here, you guys. So if you have something to say, type it in there. Let's try to make this a conversation, a real conversation back and forth. So before we get into that, if you guys have anything that you want to say, go ahead and start typing that. If you don't know what we're talking about, then we'll try to fill you in. Do you want to explain kind of what happened and what we're talking about, why we're talking about this?
So what happened at the Olympics, there's an event, which I will admit up until this happened, I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah.
Where they run, swim, do fencing, shoot.
Archery?
Oh, was it archery? Sorry. And then they jump a course on a horse. The history of it, where it came from and the origins, is it's a military exercise. Being that the Olympics were started in that way to weed out the best and all athletics, and everything has to do with military. It's been going on for quite a while. Very interesting event, because obviously not a very popular one. I'm not going to say I know everything that happens at the Olympics, because I definitely don't, but they do all these events and it's the average across all five, and you got to be good at all five. This year at the Olympics, a lady from Germany was, after the first four, was leading it by some type of record as far as points go, and they come to the jumping aspect of it. She gets on her horse, not her own horse, it's a horse. All these athletes have to get on a horse the day before. What is it, like 20 minutes?
They have 20. I think I read that it was 20 minutes that they have to get to know the horse the day before.
And that's part of the event, is that they have to catch, we call it catch riding horses. They have to catch ride and do this jumping course. This lady from Germany, last Olympics she was fourth. This year she comes out and she's beating everybody by a landslide. Gets on Flicka and they do not get along.
Yeah, she's in tears before she even enters the ring. She's in tears in the warm-up.
And jumps a horrible course.
She had the chance, first of all, she had the chance to switch horses if she chose to, I believe, but she chose not to. And then, sorry, go on.
And she went in and started the course, and it got worse and worse, and crashed a couple jumps pretty hard, and
horse refused a bunch of times.
Yeah, horse
crashed.
Refused, and then the horse checked out a little bit, stood in a corner, and did not want to go forward. So then the second part of this whole deal, so here's this lady from Germany, and she has a hissy fit on this horse, crying and just going goofy. And the horse is in the corner, and the other part of that is the coach reaches over the rail and hits the horse. And absolutely nothing productive. Hits the horse right in the fat part of his hip. Nothing. It didn't hurt the horse. Horse didn't even feel it. But still, there's a huge rule violation there. So this girl goes from going to win a gold medal at the Olympics to being, was it 30th out of 31 or 30, whatever. She was, yeah, she was last.
Basically, yeah.
And of course, it gets on the internet, and everybody's blaming horses and riders, and everybody has an opinion. And it's a very interesting debate, because there's so many parts of it. There's the coach doing what she did, the rider doing what she did.
The difficulty of the event itself, the level of difficulty of that course.
Oh, and the course was
And they did say that there were more refusals and more riders fall at this Olympics on that course than in previous years. Not a huge amount more, but more.
And I do not know if I assume there's a standard height. I do not know if this was a more challenging course or it was just happened to be that year. I don't know.
They were jumping, the jumps were 411 is what I saw.
Right, but I don't know if that's
I don't know if that's standard, but that's high. That's quite high.
Quite high.
That's a high level of difficulty.
So everybody now on not Facebook, well, I guess
The
Facebook.
World Wide Web.
Yes, the web, have their opinions as to whether this should even be an Olympic event. Should the horses be a different standard? Should the jumps be lower? You know, there's the opinions from the general public. There's the opinions from the equestrian community and the people that do this event. Everybody has a different, like everything, everybody has their own opinion. Does that explain?
So yeah, so let's see some. You guys have some opinions. Some of you have seen some of the videos or heard what happened. Let's see what you guys think, and we'll go through this just a little bit. We'll read some of these comments here. If I don't get to your comment, I apologize in advance. Laura is saying, by your own Momentum website, riders need to be in a neutral emotional state to ride or work horses. That summarizes it for me. Okay, Laura, that is such a good point. So what Laura's talking about is inside of our online coaching program, Momentum, we have an article about being emotionally neutral when you're riding or working with horses. And I like how you brought that up, Laura, because I think that's also a major influence on what happened, where this rider, or I guess, yeah, this athlete is obviously a really intense competitor to be at the Olympics, to compete in the pentathlon to begin with, to be at the Olympics. You know, some of the other events that we're watching, I don't know whether this happened in the pentathlon, but some of the other events we're watching, you know, there's athletes vomiting on themselves and they keep running. They're, you know, competing with injuries. It's a really tough,
that's the Olympics. The best of the best.
It's a really tough mental state to be in. And that state, as that type of individual competitor, is a very different state from the state you need to be in when you're on a horse. And I like how you summarize that. I don't want to give away too much about what I think about it before we read what everybody else thinks about it, because I think this is good to hear what everybody else says. Laura also says, as a young lessoner, most coaches taught emotional neutrality as an important part of horsemanship. And if I can't manage my emotions, get off the horse. And as a camp counselor, the same rules went for kids riding. This rider had a chance to demonstrate maturity, grace, horsemanship, and she blew that opportunity. Yep. Sarah says, the jumps are way too big. All I saw was this German girl and another one that had gone viral, and I couldn't watch anymore. Just awful.
Yeah, the jumps were big. And I agree, obviously, for this horse, it didn't work. But on the other side of that, has anybody given credit to the girl who won the event and succeeded at those jumps?
Yeah.
You know, there's...
And the other competitors who did the course successfully.
Right. So this girl had a flop, which happens. Mm-hmm. I was watching a thing on Facebook the other day, and it was highlights for good and bad of the Olympics, and they showed a gymnast. I don't know the names of all the events, but she came off of the...
We know an alarmingly low number of Olympic athletes and Olympic facts.
But this was a girl come off the thing, you know,
yeah.
Here she is twirling the air. And I mean, she face plants. I mean, face on the mat goes whack. And the commentary said, and made a good point, if you're going to play at the Olympics and you're going to stretch it to the limit, sometimes it's going to fail.
Yeah.
I have no doubt, for that horse and rider, it was a fail. Should she have done some things? Yes. But by saying they're too high, you're lessening the competition for the people that have succeeded and did it well. Mm-hmm. Not arguing with you, I just mean it as, that's competition. Things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Keep it as an Olympic event.
So Lisa's saying, keep it as an Olympic event, just take the live animal out of it. And maybe that is what needs to happen. Like, Lisa, this is such a difficult topic, I think. And I know where you're coming from because I know you're an animal lover. And I think that I don't know if you got to watch the videos, Lisa, but that was really hard to watch. and it was dangerous. The horse was in a really dangerous position and the rider was in a really dangerous position.
Oh yeah, even before she lost her temper, it was just hard to watch.
Crashing into jumps like that, like that's so dangerous.
Coming up with no momentum, no timing.
Yeah.
The whole thing just didn't work. And unfortunately, it was at the world stage.
Yeah. So let's get through a couple more of these comments before we get yakking more. Ashley says, I hardly consider what the coach did a punch. Yeah. The German rider was obviously distraught before beginning, so was set up for failure. Okay. If the purpose is to demonstrate the athlete's versatility, I don't think the jumps need to be that high to do so. It appeared unsafe for both horses and riders, whether due to difficulty or lack of ability, I'm unsure. So Ashley, did you watch the rest of the competition, or is that just that one rider? Sarah says the other one I saw was completely horrible riding. She fell off twice and the horse fell as well. Lacey, I think all equestrian sports are under scrutiny in terms of animal rights and welfare, and behavior like that reflects poorly on all of us. Yeah, I totally agree with you there.
It's unfortunate when it happens in the equine world. Well, it's unfortunate when it happens at all in anywhere. It happens in other parts of the Olympic also, because if you're at that level as an athlete, you're there to win. You don't, you gotta go. You're focused on winning. When something happens, it's hard to just go, oh, it's okay. Should she have done it? No.
Like when the horse misbehaves, it's hard to just accept it, you mean?
Right, tip your hat and walk up.
Yeah.
You're there, you're that close to an Olympic gold. That's what you've worked for years.
Yeah.
When somebody has a hissy fit in the corner, they say, oh, that person just, isn't very sportsman. And unfortunately, when there's a horse involved, it becomes, animal cruelty or whatever. Unfortunately, the Olympics bring out the best in people and the worst in people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the comment before, I apologize, I don't remember who it was, but yes, the punch, it was the most ridiculous thing. I mean, it was not like me winding back Muhammad Ali.
It didn't hurt the horse, but what a violation of the rules. Imagine a coach reaching out and pushing or punching or assisting in any other event in the context of a basketball game or a marathon. You'd never have a coach reaching over the line and assisting a rider, pushing a rider. Or,
what the coach did was just so ridiculously stupid.
Yeah, and put herself at risk of getting hurt. The horse could have kicked out and hurt her, or I think there was a cameraman very close to her. It shouldn't have been done. Kelly says, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they only had 18 horses for this class, so some of the horses went through the course a couple of times. I'm not sure how that worked.
I don't think they did, because they were talking about the spare horse, the alternate horses. And you know what, Kelly, I mean,
Kelly,
I don't know the rules as much as I, to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
That I don't know. They went the day or two before in the trials. Mm-hmm. They did do that, so they'd been on the course, but I don't know that they...
Yeah. And somebody's saying, I believe this horse competed previously and the rider had issues. They should have pulled the horse, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I don't know whether it had competed previously or it had been acting up in the warm-up or the trial the day before. We don't actually know whether the riders are able to research the horses ahead of time at all to get an idea, like to see it go through a class ahead of time. But shoot, what else was I going to say? I was going to say something else to that. They could have pulled the horse. The statement from the people who are in charge of selecting horses for that event was that all the horses had been vetted and warmed up and everything had checked out okay. So any problem that occurred in competition was the fault of the rider. That was the statement that was made by
and when you saw that girl jump, it just didn't match. And that's the luck of the draw. And similar to Lisa's comment here about you know, the horse had issues. They vetted the horse. They found the best packers. We call them packers, or, you know, amateur friendly, whatever you want to call it. The horse had been checked out. They had worked at the horse. But once the media got hold of it, they pretty much had to pull it just because of, you know, worldwide, this is the thing. Now, some other parts, though, that nobody thinks about is, so that horse obviously was a pretty nice horse to go there. You know, they didn't just go down to, you know, the kill pen and find 20 horses and say, let's see if these things will work. And
some owner donated their horse for the use at the Olympics.
And now it is worldwide.
And now,
what's its name? Saint Boy? Is that right? Saint Boy?
I can't remember, but it's funny now that you're saying it out loud.
I think the horse's name is Saint, whatever it is. But now everybody in the world is bashing this horse.
Yeah.
That with the right rider is a very nice horse.
A very nice horse, yeah.
When you watch this girl jump, and every time she gets to the top of that jump, I mean, she's heaving on this thing's face. She's coming down in that saddle as it hits the ground. It's a bad matchup, and that's the luck of the draw. And that same scenario happens. Quarter Horse has the Youth World Cup. Youth kids come from all over the world. They had it in London here a few years ago.
Yep.
They get donated horses, and when you donate a horse, you have to rely that the kid is going to match up. And there were certain horses, we donated a couple, and there were some that I think people might have thought I should have donated, that I was like, nah, they're not good with, you know, beginner horses.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult thing too. So here's the owner now of this bay horse, you know, who just donated her horse to be on the worldwide stage in front of everybody. And it gets paired with a rider who does not jive. And I'm sure in most places, old Saint Boy went around and packed that rider and likely a bunch of riders over the years around a lot of courses, and unfortunately met up with somebody who did not jive. And I can attest to this completely. There are some horses I don't jive with, and it happens just the same as people. I mean, there's some people you just don't jive with, and that's the nature of that sport.
Okay.
Is you draw that horse.
I can't believe I'm the one saying this in this situation, but yeah, the horse and the rider combination was bad, but there was just some bad horsemanship.
Oh, it was horrible horsemanship.
There was stuff that she was doing that didn't give the horse a shot in heck in getting over the next jump, and he still took her over some of those things.
Oh yeah, and I think,
you know, there was a lot that she did wrong. There was no question about whether she did it wrong or not, and she did not set that horse up to take her over the jump. So I would have pulled that horse from competition no matter whether, you know, I mean, just the way he had been ridden in that ring, in that class, in that competition, did not set him up to be shown the next day for the men.
I'm sure that's part of, like,
so you can't say that they pulled, like, I can't remember what the comment was here, but you can't say that they pulled the horse because he's the problem necessarily. Yeah, he's going to have to go through in there and get schooled on a bunch probably to undo some of that stuff that she did. But she failed that horse big time. She did not set. I wouldn't want to ride that horse after she rode it. Yeah, there was a lot of rider error in there. So let's get back to Lisa's point, because I think we can debate about who was wrong and where it went wrong and all of those things until we're blue in the face. But really, I think what the conversation needs to be, unless we just want to get on the internet and argue about stuff, is like,
isn't that what we're here for?
How do we move forward from this? What should the modern pentathlon look like at the 2024 Olympics in Paris? How do we come out of this? How do we learn from this and make it better? And Lisa suggested taking the live animal out, and maybe that needs to happen. We had this conversation before we came live. Maybe that's what needs to happen. But what my perspective is, and you should share your perspective on it. I don't know if it's different, but what my perspective on it is that as we like as a society become further and further removed from livestock and horses, it's going to be more challenging for somebody like a pentathlete to compete in the horseback riding portion, for sure. Is that a reason to take it out? I don't think so, because I think as we become more and more removed from livestock and horseback riding, and the general population having a good handle on how to take care of them and how to ride them, we need events like the Olympics where the general population is exposed to horses, so that there's a relevancy in modern day life, so that people see it and they like watching it, or somebody's child sees it and they want to start riding horses. If we don't have that connection, if we don't have horses being used and a part of modern society, what's going to happen to them? There isn't a wild. Horses can't really live in the wild anymore. The horses that we've bred certainly can't go live in the wild. So we could remove horses from the pentathlon and avoid that abuse, that, if you're going to call it abuse, that St. Boy took in that one run at the Olympics. But in the end, is it going to be better for the horses to not have that exposure and become that much more removed? You know, if we remove it from the Olympics, then do we also remove it from, you know, my perspective on it is that we have to just keep getting better. We have to just, where were the stewards? Why wouldn't that run get shut down? You know, why wasn't that rider and horse pulled off the course partway through? My perspective on it is that needs to be tightened up more rather than pull the live animal entirely. What do you think?
Yeah, I think everybody's trying to jump on this event because of two bad riders.
There's a petition going around to remove it.
And that happens, you know, every time there's a bad deal. Like a couple of years ago, there was it Jack Carroll, John Carroll, guy with the Tennessee Walkers was caught abusing horses. Everybody says, oh, we should ban all Tennessee Walkers.
Yeah.
Well, there's lots of guys doing it well.
Mm-hmm.
In order to go in this event, it wasn't like they
and
just
women
signed.
doing it well.
Sorry.
People.
As long as they're like, that girl just didn't sign up and never ride a horse. I'm sure on a different horse suitable to her type of ride, and she likely is a good enough rider. Mm-hmm. What it looked like to me was a horse with maybe a little stronger through the neck and through the throat latch, kind of took her a little bit. And when things started going wrong, she got scared a little bit. I agree that they should have, I don't know what the expression is in the English world, but blown her off or whistled her out or whatever the equivalent is. But to me, it's unfortunate what happened. It's unfortunate that it did take place. But taking it out of the Olympics is an unfortunate deal. The reason it's there as you only get a little bit of time to ride, that is a tradition thing. Mm-hmm. Part of it is cost of bringing horses. You know, the big show jumpers have big sponsors. They kick those horses all over the world. You know, to keep the fee, you know, the sheer dollars and cents down. And the one that scares me higher up than one horse, which it's unfortunate that what did happen to one horse, but as far as the Olympic goes, once they start pulling stuff out of the Olympics, they're going to keep going. Mm-hmm. The equestrian deal
is so expensive.
Is the most expensive to run, the least watched, popular. So there's not sponsorship money, and it's the hardest one to run and the least amount of get back for it. So once they start saying, let's pull some horse stuff, I think people are going to realize it's going to be a really slippery slope. Mm-hmm. And that's the same when there's a couple, and this gets kind of to the humane part of all showing and things. There are some agencies in the United States, especially, I'm sure they're in Canada too. Well, we have the Humane Society up here, who don't think we should show horses at all. They don't think we should ride horses. They don't think we should do anything, dog shows, any of that stuff. And once they get a hold in a city and say, well, we're going to take away a circus or a rodeo or whatever, it's a very slippery slope that happens very fast. And everybody says, well, we don't really rodeo, so that doesn't affect us. But then what they don't realize is
It's going to.
they're going to take away the horse shows, or they're going to take away the things. And that's a little bit of a different topic, but I think the stewards failed. I think the girl failed as far as the Olympic idea. Sorry, the
She's
lady.
over 18.
I'm sure, yes. She failed, and unfortunately it was with a horse. The, not the
Coach.
Olympics, but, the coach of that was just the most stupid. As much as it was hardly a punch and it was...
That was so hard to
That
watch.
was just so stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, that coach, kick her out. She's gone. And I realized she did so little to this horse, but as a coach, you don't reach over and do something stupid like that. That was just ridiculous.
I feel like you don't go into it that unprepared. Like, I don't know whether she gave that rider more constructive coaching throughout the rest of her run, but the part that we saw, she was completely useless and dangerous.
Yeah. And I don't know whether that coach is a pentathlon coach.
Hopefully she doesn't watch this.
Well, I don't care if she does
We
or
just
not.
slammed her.
As a coach,
Yeah.
if I
She
reached
made all
over
of
the
us look
fence and
bad.
whacked on a horse, I
Oh
mean,
my gosh.
that's ridiculous. But that's a whole separate thing, because that was just ridiculous. But from the girl showing, should she have done it? No. Were her emotions high? You bet.
Yeah, but-
she was about to win a gold.
yeah.
She should not have done it. And I'm sure right now she's looking at this going, oh my God, I just made a fool of myself on the Olympic stage.
Yeah.
The
The photo
stewards-
of her crying is like
Oh, it's
viral.
everywhere.
We used it.
The Olympic, do I think the Olympic stewards should have stopped that? Yes. I don't know what the rules are, but if a reining run is going where it's dangerous, judges will blow, they will stop you. If a cow horse is getting dangerous, they blow the whistle and you stop. I mean, that's kind of the deal. Should the coach have done something? Yeah, they should have stopped it too. A lot of things did fail. I don't think they should take it out. I don't think, because I think the more we talk about this, we take away from the people that did a good job.
Yeah.
And to get at the Olympics, I'm sure in the pre-trials and all the qualifiers, I'm sure this lady did a very good job on certain horses. This was the luck of the draw, that she drew the horse that they butted heads and it didn't work. And unfortunately, that's the luck of the draw. I mean, we get it in the cow horse. Cow comes out, it doesn't fit our horse. If we have a horse that likes a little, maybe head on, a little more engagement from a cow, that thing turns tail, it doesn't work. That's the luck of the draw. It sucks that it's at the Olympics, sucks that, that it happens, but you got to take responsibility for it yourself, because the person that did the best job won the deal. That's the part about that event. If you don't like it, go do another event that doesn't involve horses. And I can see where when people see this, and anybody watching, I've known Lisa for many years. I'd hate to guess how many years I've known her for. And she loves her horses. She babies them. And even me and Lisa don't always agree on the amount that she babies them, and she doesn't agree with me all the time on that. But we've remained friends for many, many years because we can talk about it, and we're all fine with it. Everybody has their own opinion, but I'd hate to see it come out, because there's people that do train and it worked for, who got a gold medal. I don't even know what countries were gold, silver, and bronze. Doesn't really matter. But somebody succeeded. No different than if somebody would have been in the part where they ran, got a cramp, and the leg didn't work. It would have
Somebody
stopped.
probably
Unfortunately, this
cast
was
rode a
with the
horse
horse
that was more difficult than that one, and
got along with it.
whatever, got through whatever obstacles in the swimming portion, and that's a really impressive event to get through.
And I think anytime it goes on Facebook or the World Wide Web, we only ever focus on 35 seconds of the worst run that could have been brought up. There were so many that jumped well, were with the horse mentally and physically, and it worked. And I think that's with every sport. I mean, we've seen, I don't know if you can say abuse allegations, but where they videoed something and said, oh my gosh, this person here, was really abusive and stuff. And if you take a short clip and don't show what was before and what was after,
context was,
you can get people in the wrong part of strides. I mean, there was a picture, this is a bunch of years ago, of a reiner, and he just pulled up on a horse like this. Well, he was a big guy, big tall guy. It looked horrible. But if you watch the video, it looked a whole lot different. And we've seen that with pleasure horses. And I'm not saying there's not abuse. I'm not saying that there's not. I'm not sticking up for those riders that, did something stupid like that. But, when you take a short clip, that's a hard one.
I'm going to get into some of these. Oh, geez.
There's one in there about why the horse stopped. The horse stopped because it just checked out. Every time it hit the jump, it was off timing. They don't like how it feels, so the horse goes, I can't go anymore.
Okay, Sarah says, I watched the show jumping, and they are also obviously there to win, but one horse had a nosebleed mid-course and didn't compete the next day, and one had some type of lameness during the course, so the rider stopped, tipped his hat, and that was that. Those countries said goodbye to their medals and didn't throw any fits. I 100% agree with you. That's horse people. That's the difference in this circumstance, I think, is a horse person versus,
and those are events
this woman is not
where
a
they are
horsewoman.
more used to being blown off of the course.
And they know their horse. We had this conversation. Should it be that they have to bring their own horse? Because if you're on a horse that you don't know from Adam, how are you going to have that feel for that horse being off? How are you going to know when that horse is not having, something's wrong with it and you shouldn't be showing it versus let's just kick them through the rest of the run? That's a tough one. Nicole said, exactly, Lindsay, the horse carried her around the fences as best as she would let it. I give it credit for jumping what it did. Yeah.
And I don't care what horse it is. When the rider doesn't match,
maybe
they're going to stop.
Laura's saying maybe in the pentathlon they have to demonstrate basic horsemanship and jumping. It's supposed to be a cavalry simulation, but not have it be a competitive portion, just like a pass or fail, not scored or raced.
But then you're taking out the Olympic competition of the people that succeeded did it so well. And I agree that shouldn't have went on, but that's a Stewart kind of problem.
Well, the other thing, like we on Sunday had this conversation with a few people about maybe it needs to be lower fences, maybe it needs to be a different type of competition rather than show jumping. Maybe the equestrian portion needs to be a different type other than show jumping. That's still relevant to the history of the sport, still showcases a rider's ability to get a horse to travel a distance or go over jumps or do it in a timely fashion or whatever part they're focusing on. I don't know. Monique says, don't triathletes get to bring their own equipment, so why can't pentathlon participants bring their own equipment or horse? That might be what happens, I think, Monique, but the challenge with this is the catch riding part.
And that's the same with the college kids when they compete for college schools or universities. They go to meets, they have to draw their horses. They do hunters, reiners. I feel like I'm missing something in there. And that is part of the challenge, is which person could get along with a new horse very quickly and figure that out. Unfortunately, this one just failed.
I think when the rider is in that situation where the challenge is to catch ride, there's more onus on the coach or the horse selection committee to know when to call it off. Mm-hmm. And none of that happened in this circumstance. Joy says the horse is an athlete and the rider is a competitor. The horse and the lady were not a team. You don't ever beat anyone or anything into submission. No, this horse wasn't having it. The media, Monique says the media only focuses on the car crashes. That's what get views, not all the amazing stuff. Because people who strive for excellence makes people uncomfortable.
Oh, for sure. And that happens in everything. I mean, a couple of years ago, we were just looking at the draw sheet for the Run for a Million, and a mare that most everybody on here has likely seen, but a few years ago, she walked into the pen at the World Show, and almost the same scenario. I mean, just with how she'd been doing. Well, ran in,
stopped, and her bridle broke.
She had just done real good at the World Equestrian Games. This is a big fancy mare Dan Huss was showing. Just a wonderful, wonderful mare. She pretty much had the thing won just because she walked into the arena and said, "Look at me, I'm perfect, and here we go." And his bridle broke, and he got disqualified. He finished the pattern with no bridle. He likely got more.
Just the reins around the neck.
Yeah, it was dangling around the neck. And he got more famous for the bridle breaking than if he would have won the Worlds. And it's unfortunate that that happens. People love a wreck. And that's why we're on here. That's why the media...
That's why we're on here?
Well, but that's why we end up talking about it. Is because, well, you know, everybody's talking about it.
Car crash.
Well, this is a car crash too. But I think the big thing with it is does anybody even know what country won it?
Yeah.
You know, and that's unfortunate.
Did anybody watch a single other horse go through? A few people on here did, it looks like.
I watched a couple of them last night when I came in. It was hard to even find it on the internet.
Yeah.
And the same thing, I watched some of the jumping horses. Anybody that knows me, I love watching jumping horses. I love riding them. I'm not talented at it at all, but I think they're very cool. And, you know, a great one is a great one. I don't care what they're. But of all the horses that won medals this year, this is what the world's talking about.
What the world's talking about
is 35 second where this German lady lost her mind.
Yeah, and people are worried about that coach punching it.
Well, that was just that girl lost her mind. The lady lost her mind too, and it's unfortunate. But sometimes it happens for the bad, like that deal with Dan Huss. I mean, that was, you know, he could have won the Worlds, got his Gold Globe, walked home, and everybody went, okay, Dan won the Worlds. Great horse, great trainer.
Nobody would have remembered.
Yeah, and 2 years later, nobody would have even cared. We have lesson people come in all the time and goes, my God, did you see this horse run around with no bridle? And the horse part, though, I agree it should have been stopped. I'm not saying that, you know, this should have kept, it was, I'm not saying it was fine. Is that FEI? You know, whoever stewarded it should have blown that off.
Yeah.
Or the term that we use is blown off. Should have blew the whistle, stopped it after that first couple rides. I mean, the first couple jumps, even for me being a reining horse guy, I'm watching the first couple jumps thinking, my God, that's going to hurt. The lady, I don't care if she falls off or not. It was just painful to watch.
Being out of position,
And there's only so long, you know, you could do the same thing with a reiner. You run down there 10 times and you're out of position. Those horses stop stopping. You know, they don't feel comfortable. They go, well, wait a second, this isn't working. You know, so that's unfortunate. And the more everybody says, let's take it out, let's take it out. What about all the people that got done that class or that section of that event, and them horses walked out of the pen with their ears up going, that was wonderful. And the people petted them and everybody was happy. And the horses had a good experience. And the more we try to ban things from this stuff happening, think of all the good, you know, there was, 29 other people that succeeded in a course and said, I was an Olympic athlete and I worked at this. I'm sure this is not this lady's first.
I hadn't really thought about it like that, actually. You know, the giving the horses something to work towards. You know, a lot of horses, they would prefer to be worked, and they thrive in work, you know, where they're being ridden every day. We've bred them for it. You know, they're being ridden every day or 5 days a week or 6 days a week or whatever. They're getting groomed every day. They're getting bathed. They're getting supplements. They're getting, you know,
And good horses
they're getting
love to
taken
jump.
care of. Yeah, they love to do the thing. And especially during COVID, when there's been lockdowns and there's been, you know, people haven't been riding. I sure notice it in our horses that have had a bunch of time off, how much better off they are when they're ridden regularly. They love it and they thrive doing it. So taking the horses out of the Olympics and removing that opportunity for the horses to go and do that would be a great loss for the horses themselves.
Sure. And Patty
Maybe maybe not Saint Boy in that 5-minute run or whatever it was. But there's so much benefit for the horse's well-being to do that, to go and do that. Yeah, there's some stress with the travel and stuff, but man, we're getting so good at taking care of horses when they're, you know,
And I'll be willing to
finding
bet
so many ways to help them get through those things.
if we found the owner of Saint Boy, there's like a million videos of that horse packing people around at the 1 meter, what was it, 1.2? How high was it? 1.2, I think it was, or 1.4? Whatever, at that height.
I forget now.
I guarantee you there's a bunch of videos. Patty just wrote on here about send the resume. I guarantee you that horse has a resume that's huge, because they're not sending him up to the Olympics to be used that way unless he has that. It was just an unfortunate mix of a rider and a horse that didn't get along. Did the coach fail them? Yeah, but I think the whole Olympic
poor
thing-
horsemanship. You keep
Right.
saying it's the horse and the rider that's a bad combination. It was poor horsemanship.
Well, it was poor horsemanship on that horse. That
Yeah.
lady checked out.
Yeah.
And, you know, so Cindy Ride, wonder if something was bothering that horse that day. Yeah, the lady on its back.
Yeah, Cindy wrote, you have to, actually, I have to say it. Wonder if something was bothering that horse that day. It should have been stopped. Something was wrong. The committee, Cindy, I don't know if you saw earlier, but the committee said that everything was vetted and the horses were all fine. And if you do watch, I don't know if you got a chance to watch the videos, but you can see in the videos where the rider is, like the one jump where the horse refuses and the rider's like really jacking on his face, like really pulling him, and she's got the crop behind and she's jacking on his face, and she's not really telling him anything. She's just kind of whooping on him. I don't blame him for not wanting to jump and wanting to do more. I think that's what the problem was, more than, you know, he was bothered by the flies or the heat, or he was a little bit lame, or I think most of that behavior seemed to be from the way that she was riding. No way to really tell that, but if you watch the videos, that was my impression. All right, so Gail said, I think that one poor example shouldn't dictate what happens to an event in the future. Deal with the person or people causing the problem, and or who should have stopped that particular round, and then move on. Yeah, I think I would agree with you on that, Gail. You can't judge the whole sport just on that one. Patty thinks that the fences were too high. Joy,
For that horse and rider, completely agree.
Yeah.
But for the other 29, you know, that's the level they were competing at. And it worked. They got them over there safely. You know, there's two horses. There's the bay horse. I don't know what the gray horse's name. That just mentally checked out. They couldn't handle with the right rider. And
yeah.
maybe they'll bring in some rules. And I mean, I'm definitely not on the committee for the Olympics, but maybe they'll bring in some rules to blow those people off. You know, and make some adjustments, or just flat out, once it's going bad, to stop it. I mean, I'm amazed they let it keep going, to be honest. But again, the fence is too high. What about the 29 people that got it accomplished? You know, got to give credit for them.
So Joy is saying, I think there's many to blame, but sometimes when a student gets in the ring and there's a coach on the outside yelling, they do check out and just listen to the coach and keep doing what the coach is saying. Yeah, and I think, Joy, like, that's where the coach was a big problem, you know, or the lack of stewards or whatever the problem was there, because that athlete, now, I don't know, do they do one after the other? Like, would she have been physically fatigued from doing another event earlier in that day? Like, I can't imagine doing, I don't know how long the run was, but doing a run and a swim and then fighting, like fencing with somebody, and then jumping on a horse and running a course. Like, I can imagine your brain would just be fried, and you would really be depending on your coach to tell you, like, hey, that horse, you know, you need to quit, or, you know,
Run your hands up his neck and run him forward.
Yeah,
you know,
that
like, there's a
coach
lot of
didn't
things that
help.
Yeah, that coach was a whole, because even in the videos you can hear the coach, and I mean, I wasn't there, but
Yeah.
the stuff she was saying as that wreck was happening definitely was not what was going to help out.
Yeah.
And that's easy to say as we're sitting on Cook Road and not, where was it, Tokyo?
Tokyo, yeah.
You know, we weren't in Tokyo.
Where's your phone there to read that?
But they,
So the I don't know.
Never worry, I'll get a dimension. Hopefully that rider will too.
The committee for Paris 2024 has said that changes in riding were already in the pipeline due to the new modern pentathlon format. Horse welfare and athlete safety will be at the center of this process. And the UIPM 2021 Congress in November will provide an opportunity for UIPM's national member federations to participate in a collective effort to secure the future of riding in modern pentathlon. So it looks like it's all going to be reviewed, and there is an incentive or an objective to keep riding in the pentathlon. They're just looking at how to improve it, which feels like examining what happened with the stewards, the steward failure, the coach failure, the riders, that particular rider's skill level going in, maybe? Can you check on that before? Like, she had to qualify, right?
Yeah, but I think the skill rider is so, not argumentative, or how do you say that? Because she obviously, like, she was at the last Olympics. She was fourth at the last Olympics. This isn't her first rodeo. Like, she knows how to do this.
Yeah.
It was just that horse and her butted heads, and game over. This girl has done this for a lot of years. If she went to the Olympics 4 years ago, I guarantee you she didn't go home, sit on the couch, put her feet up, and just run. I'm sure for the last 4 years, she's been riding a few of these jumping horses. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, maybe this one had a different feel to his lope. Like, to me, it looked like he just carried himself maybe a little different than some of the other horses. And if she was tired, like, again, we don't know the event, but if she was tired because she just did the run or the swimming part of it, and did it scare her? You know, those are big horses. Those are big jumps. But this isn't the first time she's jumped that height. This isn't, you know, and it has worked. We have seen it in every event where coaches or trainers, non-pros, whatever, have tried somebody else's horse and just went, I don't like this one. And it happens. Unfortunately, this happened on a world stage. But this girl, to qualify for the Olympics, has had to beat out some people that were training also. Like, it was a bad day, and she wasn't a horse person that day. But at qualifiers, at trials, or whatever, she's had to excel at that, because that is a 1 out of 5 of the whole event. And unfortunately, in the jumping part, it's like, if you just run slower, you just are a slower time. When you're jumping, you either get over it or you don't, and it's black and white. Do I bash on this girl a little bit for the bad day she had and how it was presented? Yes, for sure. She did a horrible thing for the sport, horrible thing to the horse. to the owner of that horse who donated. Like, there's so many parts that she failed, and for that, I hope she feels bad for. Hopefully, she learns from it. But in previous times, she has jumped courses, and there Becky said it's hard to judge somebody on your worst possible day, and this was her day. She has worked to get into that. She went into that thing going, man, I am in contention for a gold medal, and it all came shattering down right in front of her in a couple of minutes. And you know, it's unfortunate. It's you know, obviously she has succeeded and done that event. I think, to me, it was just likely a case of that was a much different type of horse than maybe she was used to. And it everybody kind of checked out a little mentally. They said it was extremely hot. You know, if you're in them indoor arenas, and if you've ever showed in those, Becky will love this one, if you've ever showed in those indoor arenas when it's really hot, you're not thinking 100%. I know Becky's going to find that hard to believe.
Was that an indoor that she was in?
Oh, I think it was a huge indoor, wasn't it? It was a stadium jumping indoors, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I thought it was. But they said, you know, it was absolutely horrible. It was really hot. So, I mean, there was a lot of things go on for this lady. And I don't mean it as I'm sticking up for. She did a bad thing that day.
No, you're right.
But she's qualified.
We've
She's
all
been
had
there.
runs where we look like not much of a horse person.
Unfortunately, hers was on the
was
world stage, and everybody.
televised.
Sure, and she
Yeah.
did some bad things. She went above and
she
beyond
did.
some
Yeah.
stupid things.
Yeah.
But everybody in the media maybe should also try to work their butt off and try to get to the Olympics. And you know, and she's done it twice. She's qualified at least twice, because they said she was there a few years ago and was fourth.
Yeah.
So kudos to her for being that high up. And unfortunately, it was just a bad situation, and the horse was involved, which makes it way worse. But I think the scribes, or not the scribes, the stewards have a lot that they should be blamed on for this.
Yeah, they should be explaining
Because
themselves.
You know, that should have stopped way sooner.
Or the rules need to change so that the stewards can do something when they see something that's going to be dangerous like that.
I guess that's another thing. We don't know the rules. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't know the rules to know whether that is in place. I mean, in the reiners, the cow horses, the stuff that we know. If things start going that dangerous where you're in a corner and that thing's popping around and it ain't going anywhere, you get excused by the...
You get excused if you don't excuse yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have the option to do it gracefully, or you get told to get out.
Yeah.
But it sure brings up a lot of stuff, just in horse showing in general, you know, about...
Did we solve some world problems tonight?
Oh, way above the Olympics. I mean, we're like world peace now. We're way out there. And every horse show has it happen. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't just the Olympics. I mean, I've seen that BS happen at club shows. I've seen it happen at, you know, every level.
Yeah.
You know, people have meltdowns. You know, and it's unfortunate. Everybody gets into it. I don't care whether you're an Olympic athlete or not. You get into this for the love of the horse and trying to have fun. And obviously at that level, she got mentally invested that, you know, she wants to win a gold medal.
Yeah.
And, you know, should the coach have... There's a lot of people that I think could have done better. But I don't think they should take it out. My personal thing, I don't think they should even lower the jumps, because, I mean, give credit where credit's due. There was 3 people on the podium when that thing was done that jumped that course, ran, swam, shot things, and what did they... Oh, fence. That was the other... you know, that I don't think I'd want to try it. I could ride the boat in the water.
It's like that thing that was going around where people were saying, like, every time that you're watching an Olympic event, they should have like just an average person competing in that event, so you can actually see how hard it is or how skilled the athletes are. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
There's a lot to it.
I think we've solved as much as we're going to solve with this topic tonight. I hope that committee is able to put together some good things for the 2024 Paris Olympics, because I think they need to do that after this, and I hope it's a good committee that's able to...
Would that be the Olympic Committee or the FEI?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe both.
Yeah, I'm sure they're together.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for joining us tonight, you guys, and contributing. If we didn't get to your comment, then I apologize. I'll go back through those afterwards. But thanks for being here and for contributing. If you're looking to find out more about us and what we are doing, we are on the World Wide Web at hayescofellperformancehorses.com. You have already found us on Facebook. We are also on Instagram at hayes_cofell_performancehorses. If you have a topic or a question that you would like for us to address, you can send that in by email at hayescofellph@gmail.com. And we hope to see you or chat with you back and forth on a Facebook Live, or get an email from you soon. Take care of yourselves, and thanks for being here. Good night.
Have a good night.